When the mortal realm's in need of destruction, you better call on the Lord of Seduction. End of the world, it's almost time, but I'm gonna do it right, the perfect crime.
We've come a long way, and yet it sounds like lots of the old world was still there, or was being rebuilt by your minions.
You probably worried that I would kill you for making such a blasphemous statement, but I am a man not too humbled by pride to admit that yes, the destruction instruction had met some construction obstructions far too regularly, but that just meant I needed to up my game. Oh, and one other thing.
Yes?
Less of your back talk, if you please. Next.
So I had just arrived in Imperial territory, the land of hideous hats and insidious idiots, ready to raise the bar, if you will. You get it? Raise as in burn?
You're a fast one.
But doesn't that mean you were destroying the bar? So it doesn't really...
Next! Getting through them fast today, eh?
The plan was simple. First you get her the money, then you get her the power, then you get her the free pass to commit mortalcide en masse, making much moral messes, masking mayhem that nevertheless is the March Slanesh professes. Capiche? First target was Dieterschaffen, but got distracted by the arrival of a horde of beast men. Now, like any gentleman of the world, I'm partial to a little hooving now and again, but on this occasion my only lust was for goat hide jackets and murder moose antler ornaments, so it was death, death, and quite punctually more death to follow. So, let's tick off some places on the hit list. Got Dieterschaffen, then bypassed the humans' big tally-wally droopy-troopy stronghold to smash Norden a little further east, then cruised all the way on over to Castle von Rauken, promptly turning it into the world's largest open grave, von Rauken. The next target was Wolfenburg, another one of those damned walled-up places that took an age to break open before you could drink the sweet fleshy milk within. The enemy had enough food to last for 8 whole Star Wars marathons, a rather ugly delay at best, and a ticket to have Jewel of Fate stuck in your head forever at worst. Luckily, the footless fascist himself, McSpawnseeker, was on the case. You see, he hadn't taken his armor off since the whole affair began, and as you can imagine, the waste was building up a fair bit. It had reached a point where his mere presence anywhere in the vicinity of a human settlement caused fits of vomiting so powerful that their food supplies were simply launched into orbit whenever they attempted to consume them. Resultantly, we only had to marathon those adventures through a galaxy with no Asian people 5 times, umbrellas open of course. Soon the city that fell to the smell was a pile of penniless rubble, and we moved on. But before we could reach the next feeding ground, business yet fouler than Spawnseeker's stench arose from the Dark Realm. Trouble at the annual Kiddies pantomime, as far as I know.
Yeah. There once was a man from Laramie with an elbow on his arm and one upon... what is this? The bird's landed on me. Okay, just ignore it. And one upon his shoulder, don't you know? Is that the end of the story? At least the bird's gone. Come on. No, not a laugh in the house. Well, in that case, I think I shall unleash my special number. It's what the bloody frigid damsels is... Oh, that's no bird, it's the Lord of Change. It's bloody Tzeetch. He remembers the raid from last night. My lord, I tried to heal you, but you see, I was really out of mana, and not everyone was really pulling their weight. You see, you can't blame me for anything. It was the Tyke, he was AFK. No, just like the leaves foretold.
No one will oppose the will of Tzeetch.
I'm still alive. That was a mattress down here. Another sort of mattress. It's a pile of scorpions. Oh no! Oh, get off! Oh, no.
Yes, it was Tzeetch, the worst of the big 4. He'd finally snapped.
He decided to come out into the old world to kill me, rather rude by any account. Probably thought that if the old world was never destroyed, then no one would blame him for not taking part, and so he took a break from his busy schedule of crafting woolen undergarments and killing drunk ladybirds to give me a piece of what remained of his mind. Not wishing to validate his tantrum, I just continued about my business, turning some mountainous fortress called Brass Keep into the world's first extra chunky blood bank. Then, while heading west, I got a telegram from Korn reading something to the effect of, "Oi, cheeky rat muncher, stop. Humans only went and bloody put half the crop you harvested back in the field. Stop. Kill them again, and then they might stop. Stop. And bloody hell tell them to get off my land. Stop. Addendum, get email you Luddite. Stop." Yes, indeed, Norden had been rebuilt, as had Datashaven, by the orcs, interestingly enough. It was almost as if this strange little world didn't want to be destroyed. I knew the problem though. You see, in my haste to gobble up all the easy morsels, I'd been leaving pockets of life behind. The trick, I realized, was to exterminate everything down to the last mitochondria, which unfortunately meant laying siege to some rather large establishments, but it was the only way. While attempting to persuade the people of Salzenmund to let us in for a chat about the good word of the Chaos Gods, one such god managed to find us. Yes, as ever, my plans to actually do my job were being dashed by the very same corporation I was working for. I didn't have time to destroy the city, so we quickly snuck in and stole all that pocket change to keep us going for a bit, and then I moved north to prepare for the great battle. Unfortunately, the Sinchster, being the deceitful little bird creature that he is, had misinformed my spies about how far he was prepared to move, and arrived at my camp the moment we finished setting up the karaoke bar. My perfect rendition of I Kissed a Girl would have to wait. We fled for the coast. I needed a chance to gather more warriors before the battle, and that meant escaping from the dastardly deity post-haste. I realized I had something he didn't though, a magical ark. I could simply move my people out to sea, safe in the knowledge that it would take the winged Wazuk an age or two to create the ships he needed to follow. You know, this ark of yours is coming in very useful. I really must— You really mustn't, good sir, or by the power vested in me by the Lord of Pleasure, I will manifest said ark in such a location that a sphincter of splinters will be the first and least of your problems. Do you understand? Not at all. Good. We arrived back in Norska, turning what was apparently a dwarven hold into another little tribe of minions. Just what I needed to create new recruits for my force, you see. Then, after a while waiting and preparing, the enemy finished swimming after us and set up camp nearby. Sent in old Cleverclogs to try and kill some of them before the fight, but he got distracted riddling with a passing sphinx, so didn't achieve anything outside of realizing that it is in fact a hole that gets bigger the more you take away from it. So then it was time for the decisive battle, the perfect prince versus the wormed raven, fighting for love, for death, and for an excuse to continue screaming into the internet about how the DPS's rotations were way off. I had some more brand spanking new troops out on the field, including the surprisingly on-fire Knights of Khorne. Don't go in for that sort of thing myself, but I'm a fair employer. I say, set whatever you like on fire, including your own eyeballs, as long as it doesn't spoil your productivity. In the beginning though, it was all about the dwarf-driven dispenser of demonic doom, since the enemy army was in range of my violet violence vector, and seemed quite willing to just stand there and take a good old-fashioned pounding. Ooh, that's got to hurt. Ooh. Oh dear. Ouchie grouchy. Pain train to Boomtown. Oh, dibs on the gibs. That's going to hurt in the morning, but not as much as right now. Party eventually came to an end when my hell cannon ran out of purple, and I was forced to advance my army. The enemy had 2 hell cannons, like old Double Dip back in the wastes, meaning my formations were rather vulnerable to a bit of explosive exploitation. I decided on my troops' behalf that that wasn't going to be a problem, and we continued on. Before you get all uppity about a leader's responsibilities to his teams of tamed snails, I did make a small effort to reduce the levels of death to my men. I'd managed at an earlier time to capture a couple of those Drago with mountain lion tricors and had them swooping about behind the enemy as a distraction. Granted, it didn't actually do anything, but as any school teacher with a penchant for lying will tell you, it's taking part that counts. Eventually, the lines came close and it was time for the great clash. Main issue was that the enemy had multiple large, blubbering body confidence enthusiasts coming our way, and a selection of smaller horrors as well, all perfectly suited to smashing aside my lines of mere human thralls. Here's a life lesson for you. Sometimes, when people are dying all around you, limbs flying, weapons breaking, heads getting bitten off by 5-story clothesophobes, you just have to let it all play out and see what happens. I was as mellow as my armor was yellow, and enjoyed a little light combat to stretch the muscles before dinner time. The life of a country gentleman. Behind our lines, the enemy attempted a cavalry strike, but I had some troops supplied by, ironically enough, Tzeetch himself, there ready to stop them. They claimed to be good against horsemen, but as ever, the disciples of the Lord of Deceit were, in a Luke and Leia were an incest couple all along tier twist, actually among the worst warriors ever to receive an unwarranted interior spear inspection in my presence. So the fight continued as is for a while, until the big feature the Tzeetchster decided to wade into the action himself, dressed as some kind of mutant avian with a staff that had tentacles, probably just some cosplay from a damn RPG. But references to tales of non-consentia aside, we did at least get to see a more realistic flying death beast come down for a munch of the tasty traitor troops. All it did though was remind Tzeetch that he couldn't actually fly, and in a tantrum he suddenly killed half my men. Shame really. Still, despite the fact that everyone was getting beaten into a pulp by a variety of mirror-shattering creatures, I still felt rather chipper about it all. You see, the classic military maxim of, well, you can't kill us all, right, had come into effect. By sheer weight of stupidity, we managed to bring down one of the big fellows. Meanwhile, I was popping over to have a sword with Tzeetch, who was still angry about failing a raid in front of his internet girlfriend or something. Spawnseeker was cleaning up around the outside, mowing down trolls with his death scythe and merrily whistling Oompa Loompa songs from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Something tells me that from his perspective all this really was some kind of confectionery construction project, and by something, I mean the fact that every mushroom in a 50-mile radius had recently disappeared, and that smoke was leaking out from the joints of his helmet. Anyway, soon Tzeetch gave up and unceremoniously flopped over, and by that point the big flamers with their hands on their sabres had cleared up everything else. Last Giant realized it was time for his next Botox jab and snuck away, meaning the great host of Tzeetch the Squawker had been summarily defeated. I may have lost all my men, but men can be replaced rather easily. In fact, the process is rather interesting, I must show you sometime. What you can't put a price on is bragging rights, and I'd be damned, even more so than I already was that is, if I wasn't one step closer to getting a bright rosette placed on my rippling chest that informed all passers-by that not only did I participate in the proceedings, but that said participation was worthy of an award. So, with that business concluded, maybe at long last it was finally time to actually destroy that old world. 8th time's the charm, as various cretins are wont to say.